Why do you think women kind of undereat without realizing it? And what are some signs?
I really don't love intermittent fasting for women, especially more active women.
Why not?
There's some evidence that supports it's not great from a hormonal standpoint, specifically in relation to fertility for women.
I would love to chat about sugar.
Oh,
Everyone talks
yeah.
about being addicted to sugar, and it's like,
Yeah.
is that a thing? I see you got your Diet Coke in your hand already, so we can, get started.
My fridge sig.
Amazing. So you're a
Yeah.
big Diet Coke kind of gal, are you?
Yeah, I love Diet Coke. I'm an equal diet soda opportunist. I really love diet root beer too. That's another favorite of mine.
So what are you saying to people that say, Diet Coke and diet drinks are bad for you?
I say that I'm following the science. The evidence of harm is really not there. Most studies people cite who are anti-Diet Coke or think it's, you know, the worst thing you could drink. They're referencing, a study from the 70s where rats were injected 400 times their body weight in aspartame and developed tumors through a mechanistic pathway that doesn't even exist in humans. So, um, aspartame in particular has been proven like the reasonable amount dose that's proven safe. I mean, you'd have to have like north of 19 Diet Cokes in a day to even approach that limit. So I say if it's something that keeps you adherent to a relatively well dialed in nutrition approach, there's nothing wrong with enjoying it.
I love it.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is the worst advice you've seen recently when it comes to nutrition? Especially for women?
Oh, fuck. Oh man, there's so many. As for women specifically, like I really don't love intermittent fasting. That's like been around, but it continues to surface. I don't love that for women, especially more active women. Um, I don't love God. I mean, hit me with any
Well,
kind
let's
of
talk about
fad or
let's talk about
diet
intermittent
name.
fasting. Why
Yeah.
intermittent fasting? Why not intermittent fasting?
There's some evidence that supports it's not great from a hormonal standpoint, specifically with in relation to fertility for women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a magic bullet. Like most people feel like shit when they don't eat, and then they work out in the morning or they compress their feeding window till whatever we'll say it, noon to 6. You can eat whatever you want. I will say if it's a strategy that helps someone adhere to a caloric budget, fine. It's just not. Most people tend to do better with like steady inputs throughout the day. What do you like to do? Like when you work out, do you feel great on an empty stomach, or do you feel better training with something in there?
No, I'm an eater. I eat all day.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
personally could never. Some people are like, yeah, I don't eat breakfast in the morning. And I was like, no, I eat almost like 30 minutes after I wake up. Like it's
right.
like the first thing. And I
Yeah,
need food before my workouts for sure.
yeah, totally. Yeah, there's this, and we respond like our appetites and our metabolisms are responsive, right? So a lot of women who come to me, like new clients, right, who
Mhm.
spin this narrative, or they truly believe that, like, I don't, I'm not someone that's naturally hungry in the morning. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
how long have you been slamming black coffee for breakfast and then not eating anything until lunch? Years. So that's just your body being responsive. There's nothing like inherently wrong with that person, or it's not that they don't naturally feel hunger. It's just that their leptin and ghrelin, right, their hunger and satiety hormones have adapted to not being fed first thing in the morning, so they don't feel hunger. So once you break that cycle, if you start eating a little more regularly in the morning, even if it feels a little uncomfortable at first, your appetite will adapt. And generally, I've research supports this. Anecdotally, my work with men and women who I work with support this as well. Once you start your day with a really solid meal, it makes decisions that follow throughout the rest of the day much better. We make much better decisions when we're generally just appropriately fed. I think I will say men tend to be less sensitive to um, intermittent fasting than women, which is why I kind of specify I really just don't love it as a strategy for women. But personal preference at the end of the day. It's not always my circus or my monkeys, but when someone is asking me my take on something like intermittent fasting, especially for a bunch of strong broads, it's not my fave. Not my fave.
Yeah, yeah. So you had also talked, and I kind of stopped you to talk a little bit more on intermittent fasting, but you talked about fads. So why do diets like mostly just fail women in general?
Um, I, man, so many reasons, but usually because they rely on unsustainable behaviors, right? Like name any diet that like has a name is generally restricting something, a whole food group, a singular handful of ingredients, an entire macro, or we're suppressing calories to a really like unsustainably low target. So if the approach or protocol isn't something that you can sustain for the rest of your life, I frankly don't see what the fucking point is. Because that doesn't teach, there's no skill building there. You don't learn anything. You don't learn how to make your approach support your life. So it really only works when the protocol or approach, you know, meets you where you are. Um, Diets fail, right? They ignore physiology. So we talked about hormones adapting, right? Hunger and satiety hormones adapting to not eating in the morning. Metabolisms adapt too to being chronically underfed, right? Your body's not like impressed by your cleanse or your 1200 calorie toddler meal plan. It's going to adapt and become less efficient as a survival tactic because it's learning and understanding that you're giving it less than it needs to thrive. So that's generally like everyone burns out eventually and hits the fuck it button, and then they decide to bail from the diet. But because we're just, they were following a blind set of yes no food rules, there was no skill acquisition in being able to just like move through life and be able to go out to dinner with your friends without fucking panicking that your diet or your progress is going to go sideways. And it's usually not that dire, right?
Yeah. I love your whole brand is like Unfuck Your Diet, right?
Unfuck Your Diet. Yeah.
That's like just like these long-term sustainable approaches to health and fitness. But why do you think women still get caught in these like, well, this worked in the past or this worked for Finley, so it's going to work for me?
Oh yeah, the copy paste phenomenon. I mean, social media feeds that for sure. We're just like constantly drilled with before and afters, transformation photos, paired with this is what this individual did to get these results. And I actually don't have a problem with like transformation photos. I think there's some pride in the journey that someone goes through to get from point A to point B. But the issue, of course, lies in that copy paste approach where everyone is different, different needs different inputs, has different training volumes. Like everyone's lifestyle is not identical. So I think social media feeds that a lot. And I just think women since the dawn of time have been just easier targets and more easily preyed upon. I know, generationally different fads and trends come and go. Like I feel like right now we're kind of re-entering that like the like skinny culture from the 90s. Like I feel like I see so much stuff that throws me right back into like uh Kate Moss glorification type body types, you know what I mean? So I do think it's all cyclic, but I mean women, we've just it's like right when we see, right when I feel like we're surging into like strength having its moment, which I think it is. Like we're seeing more people talking about it. I see this bullshit that it exists on the other side of the wellness industry that I think you and I probably more comfortably sit on, that is teaching women that they need to be less, weigh less, lift less, say less, like less. And I just think that's a historically cyclic like narrative that the wellness industry can more easily prey on via women.
Yeah, I totally think you're right. I feel like that actually just came out like maybe a year or two ago, where now really when a lot of the weight loss drugs came out,
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing a lot more of that. It was
Yeah.
so like women, strength, strong muscles. And now we're
Yes.
like back and I'm like, how did we get here? Like what was the actual reason why we got there? And really it comes back down to like the media, right? You see
Yeah.
celebrities losing all this weight and then it trickles down.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the rise of GLP-1s is absolutely contributing to that. We just now have easier access to weight loss assistance, which is, I mean, obviously that you could probably run an entire podcast on that topic. And I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about, but that's a nuanced topic that I think a lot of people that ask me my take on it, it's I think they almost expect me to like rag on it. Think, yeah, that's cheating. I don't like it. And I really don't feel that way. My perspective on it is layered. I just think that you know the the reliance on anything, whether it's a GLP-1 or a promise protocol that promises results with no effort, is risky. So you apply that to the GLP-1 craze. And if we're not working on skill building, nutritional and fitness skill building around the perimeter of that use, it's kind of like all for nothing. Because the same thing, the same uh, kind of tied to the, why diets fail because we're following unsustainable frameworks. If the injection isn't something we're taking forever and we don't actually learn how to build a lifestyle that supports the results that provides, then it's you're going to struggle once you taper off of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've had several guests on the podcast speaking specifically on that. And actually I don't know about you, but my viewpoint has changed a lot on GLP-1s because of, every person is very different in how they
Mm-hmm.
utilize it. We just go back to like what the media is portraying. Like everyone needs this
Yes.
because you need to lose weight.
Right.
Instead, if we look at it as a tool, it's just another tool
Yep.
in our toolkit, like fitness and nutrition, and we can use this as like your whole lifestyle, you can get a lot out of it. So
For
yeah,
sure.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying there.
And there's certain populations that truly need it. Like put another way, like if there was just a drug introduced that cured the opioid epidemic, I think everyone would be shouting from the rooftops. Like, yes, let's get every single addict on that. But you get these people, it's a it's gray, but you get people on their high horses, looking down at those who are using the I mean, it's a disease treatment. And I think that there are populations that absolutely benefit from it. And I think there are populations that absolutely abuse it that do not need it. But that's, again, gray.
Yeah, of course. There's so much of that. And actually the next topic I would love to chat about is sugar.
Oh,
Everyone talks
yeah.
about being addicted to sugar and it's like,
Yeah.
is that a thing? Like, is it all bullshit? Or like, yeah,
That's
what's your
so
take?
timely, especially as we go into the new year where so many people, that's like one of the first things people swear to resolve to, you know, never have again.
Yeah.
Sugar, yeah, sugar is an easy villain. Now, in terms of sugar being addicting, is it actually addictive? No, it is not an addictive substance. If it were an addictive substance, we would see people, uh, you know, face fucking a container of Domino granulated sugar in their pantry, but we don't see that, you know? Also, if I need to cool off my mouth,
No, I love
please
it.
tell me.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know many people who do that, but it's usually sugar itself in isolation isn't the problem. It's just that things that are hyper palatable have sugar in them, and they become easy to overconsume. It's um, to oversimplify what can be more complex from individual to individual. Overeating sugar isn't really the problem in isolation. It usually that is what leads to the overconsumption of calories, and that is where we see bigger problems. Sugar itself, like when we eat, you've probably heard the thing like when you eat sugar, the same the same part of your brain lights up as a cocaine addict when they take a hit. Um, it's just the pleasure center. The pleasure center of your brain is what activates when you eat an Oreo. But that same pleasure center lights up when you're petting a puppy, if you like puppies, or when you're having sex, or when you're listening to really good music. Like it's a pleasure filling substance, but it's not actually inherently addicting. And I'm not dismissing people who have a problem putting the cookie jar away. Like I've been there. I know how easy it is to overconsume things with sugar in them. But sugar can be useful. Sugar, especially in the context of an athlete or someone who's throwing heavy weight around or trying to get stronger, you really you need it. Your lifts will feel stronger when you learn how to integrate it into a balanced diet. There's that meme that went viral of Ryan Gosling and like, your brain runs on glucose. I don't
Yeah.
even know what movie that's from, but that had a viral moment. And I think I laugh. I think of that often when people are like afraid of sugar. Like your brain actually metabolizes a fuck ton of glucose every day. Like you need it.
Mhm.
And when we have, anecdotally with my clients, when I see that they are having the thing, they're struggling with sugar urges or cravings, right? And they feel like they're overeating sugar. It's usually a signal that there's a deficiency somewhere else. And it's almost always a deficiency in a combination of protein and fiber. So when we pay attention to those, when we can pull those, heavy hitting levers and increase protein and fiber inputs, we see those cravings subside, and then we can manage them a little more. Restricting it at all costs also is what makes you think about. It's like telling my 2-year-old not to press the button, right? And then that's all he's thinking about wanting to do. So
Yeah.
being able to build guardrails around your relationship with sugar and actually like intentionally including it like every day. That's something that I ask my clients who struggle with sugar cravings to do is like, we're going to pick your favorite fucking treat, like a couple Oreos or a Reese's cup or whatever. And you're going to have it every single day until it becomes no big deal, right? Because now it's normalized. You just know you can have it anytime it's around versus restricting it for a long period of time, being in its presence for a short period of time, and then being like, oh my God, I'm going into that spiral of like, I'm not going to have it again. So I'm going to overeat it now and feel like shit about myself tomorrow, right? So there are lots of different. I feel like I just went in a million different directions with sugar, but that's one of my favorite topics and something that so many people that I work with struggle with out of the gates initially.
I love that you said have it every day until it doesn't become an
Yeah.
issue anymore. Yeah, that's such a great
Mhm.
way to look at it because people think that like if it's not in their house, they're not going to eat it, but then they get
Right.
the box or the, thing of Oreos and then it's in the house and you eat it all. But if you actually give yourself that like less restriction and ability to actually just consume it, you won't actually crave it as much.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about that same like train of thought that people think they need like I know I'm sure you're gonna love this next topic, like a detox from it. They need, to take some certain time fully off of something because they
Yeah.
need a full detox.
Yeah. Well, detoxing. So like if you're listening to this and you have a functioning kidney, liver, and lymphatic system, like, congratulations, you are equipped with the most sophisticated filtration and detoxification system on the planet that exists. So you're already, our bodies are not quite as fragile as I think, the wellness industry, or at least corners and pockets of the wellness industry has led us to believe we are more than equipped to detox ourselves. So it's kind of, I mean, I would just say it's that the cleanses and detoxes are generally bullshit unless there is like a medical need for it. I'm just speaking to like Gen Pop, who's like,
Yeah.
I need to not eat any sugar for 60 days just to like cleanse my system of it. Like that doesn't, your body just doesn't really work like that. Now, if you're just like sick of it, or you feel like you've been overeating it and you're like, I need to like take a break, who am I to tell you to not do that? But from a long-term like relationship with food standpoint, I'd say the more consistently you can actually expose yourself to the, quote unquote problem foods, the the easier time you'll have ultimately being around it in the long run, because again, it becomes no big deal. Now you might have instances in that process where you overeat, and that's like, part of the learning curve, and that's okay. It happens. But I think the most important thing you can do is just like acknowledge it and then move on. Next day is a new day. Yeah. But going back to the detox cleanse thing, it's save your money. Those are usually expensive and unnecessary, and the weight gain, or the weight loss that usually rapidly kind of accompanies it is just water weight, right? Where less food volume means fewer glycogen shifts, less water weight. So it'll come back once you start chewing food again.
Yeah. Why do you think it's easier for women specifically? And maybe this is kind of our original conversation on diets, but why do you think it's easier for women to go on a diet than to make lifestyle habits and changes?
I don't know. That's a great question. I do think it circles back to marketing and positioning and all of these options that are now available and promised to produce immediate results. And like when you tell someone, hey, like the physique that I currently walk around in took me a decade to build, like
Yeah.
people think they don't have that time. I don't have a fucking decade to spend doing, like, I don't need, and that's dramatic. We can make serious progression in strength and relationship with food and physique and body composition within a year. But even a year sounds like a really long time when there's something over here that promises me that in 30 to 90 days. And what I usually say to that is like, okay, but at this point, how many years have you been starting over or electing this some quick fix of the month or the year? And it's usually years. So like what's funny about that whole thing is if you actually just, you know, suck it the fuck up and start with the actual like nuts and bolts of tightening up lifestyle, you make bigger leaps and bounds in the amount of time that you would have otherwise just spent starting over. Like a year or 2 years is still a less amount of time than you had already spent up until this point trying everything under the sun except dialing in the boring basics. And that's just it, right? The basics don't sell. They're like harder to get
Right.
women on board with because it's like super unsexy. So like to sell, you know?
Exactly. I know I've been, saying the same thing for 10 years. And I feel like it's sometimes you've got it, people have to hear it for several years for them to really get it. But I always ask the question with my clients too. I'm like, well, how long have you been in this cycle for? And then they'll be like,
Yeah.
years and years, 10 years. And then, when it'll come down to like what the work that they have to do, they'll be like, I don't know if that's what I want. I might go do this thing instead. And you're just like, well, you've already spent the time doing that. Like, when will you just really suck it up and like realize that like lifestyle changes take time and effort?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a steep learning curve. Like that's another, I think it's really important to lay the groundwork of like, and the expectation, like you're going to fuck up
Yeah.
in the beginning. Like you're not going to like nail every single baseline habit that you need to secure to like make meaningful progress right out of the gates. And that's like, okay. And there are obviously different strategies you can employ to help them through that. But I think that's a really important expectation for anyone who is at the beginning of this, lifestyle overhaul journey to expect. What's the same question to you? What would you say? I've like kind of like choked on myself for a minute coming up with an answer to that. But like, what are you seeing?
Yeah. I mean, like people have these like big goals in mind and they're like all or nothing, very perfectionist mindset. I hear that a lot from women, especially women with families that put everyone else before themselves. So,
Yeah,
like, we take it very, very slow. It's like one or two habits a week and then, just build on that. And for, like you said, it's not sexy. It's basic. It's basic movement patterns. It's drinking water. It's waking up at the same time every day. And people don't want to hear that, but like, that over the course of 3, 4 months will add up so much faster than the 2 weeks that you do on your diet or the 2 weeks that you go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, because then you're just going to fall
totally.
off again. So
Yeah.
I really take it in a very slow way and kind of I can show them what the journey will look like. Like this is where they want to go and we'll get there, but like in several months' time.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm going to keep saying it and preaching it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to talk about under eating. I think that there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women, especially also with all the rise of GLP-1s and such, but um, why do you think women kind of under eat without realizing it? And what are some signs maybe that they could understand or people around them could see?
Um, Under eating, I think happens. I mean, intentionally, unintentionally. I do think that a lot of women will report that they undereat without a full awareness of what they're probably taking in on average over the course of a week. But even undereating patterns that are so common, right? Like I'm going to be really good Monday through Friday and eat, 1,500 calories a day. And then we kind of blow it out over the weekend. But like even those under eating patterns, even if those weekend habits kind of bring the weekly calorie average into a surplus, like that happens because of that Monday through Friday under eating pattern, because we're unsatiated and so restricted. Or you have the chronic undereater who has been, falsely led to believe that a 1,200 calorie, I'm 5'3" and I'm small, so I should eat 1,200 calories a day. Like that's so common that smaller women need to eat like a fucking bird. And so they spend years eating at these really low levels, and then their hunger hormones, their satiety hormones, and their metabolism adapt to meet that lower energy intake, which then creates the issue of weight rebounding, because now where maintenance maybe used to be around 2,200 calories, it's adapted down to 1,600 calories, and now it becomes way easier to overeat past that threshold. Just spitballing as an example. And so was the original question why I think women in particular fall victim to undereating? I mean, honestly, a lot of the men I work with undereat too. It's like the very busy, productive people who like forget to eat or don't have time, or like you said, like moms who are putting everyone else in front of themselves, and that includes feeding patterns. Um, Man, I think that undereating happens for so many reasons, intentionally or unintentionally. But some signs. I mean, workouts feel like shit. You can't recover effectively. Your sleep is not great. Low sex drive is a really strong indicator of undereating. Hair falling out, irregular period. That's a really big one that I think as even though it is common for women to have irregular menstrual cycles, that's not normal. And that's like one of the best monthly report cards we can like have on ourselves is the consistent arrival of our cycle. So when the cycle is irregular, that's generally a pretty good red flag that there's something that needs to be addressed. You know, oftentimes on the nutrition side. A relationship with food is in the gutter, right? When we're under eating and scared of actual like taking in an appropriate amount of food, it's like really hard to navigate social situations, grocery shopping, just like eating out in general. It becomes like really scary. I would say those are probably the biggest signs. I'm sure I'm missing something.
Yeah,
What are
you
you?
mentioned some really good ones there. Like definitely the cycle, the recovery after workouts, energy levels, sleep,
Mhm.
even. Like there's so many things that can be involved in this. But you mentioned, I thought that was really interesting. And I know you talk about the 1,200 calorie diets and have in the past. And you'd mentioned, basically your body thinks that it was 2,200 would be a maintenance, then you get down to 1,600. What does like that rebuild look like? If somebody, was an undereater and, wanted to rebuild that
Yeah.
back up in their relationship with food.
So there are a couple different strategies you can take with chronic undereaters to get their intake up. I used to be my opinion has changed over the years on reverse dieting. Reverse dieting is where you strategically add, you know, 100 calories or so every couple of weeks to your average intake or to your daily intake. And then you slowly increase, by 100 calories every few weeks until you get up to what your like estimated maintenance range should be. And that used to be like my North Star for undereaters. Or for exiting a diet, at exiting a fat loss phase or a deficit. Now, I still use reverse dieting as a tool. Um, but in terms of getting someone back to maintenance, it kind of depends on the condition, like their current environment. So, for example, if we have been undereating intentionally for a short sprint, like let's say my client has been, we've worked through a really solid maintenance phase for 6 months, and now we're going to go into a targeted short-term 12-week fat loss phase where we go into a moderate calorie deficit for 12 weeks and then we go back to maintenance.
Mhm.
After that period, I'm not reverse dieting. I'm going to send her ass straight back to maintenance, because there's just diminishing returns in that kind of situation. You end up spending more time in an actual deficit than you need to by slowly reversing or stair stepping intake up. You could just jump right back into estimated maintenance. Now, your maintenance zone is probably going to be a little bit different at the end of a fat loss phase than it was when you started it, because you're theoretically in a just slightly different body composition. So you would jump back into your estimated maintenance, and then test that for several weeks. And then if you find that body composition is stable or you're still losing, you can test adding more calories. Now, for the chronic undereater, the individual who's been undereating for a really long period of time, whose metabolism has probably downregulated in response to undereating for such a long period of time, and or who's just like fucking terrified of eating more. Like if their whole life they've been sold this 1,200 calorie diet, meal plan, um, the prospect of eating 2,400 calories, which by the way is like most women that I work with, their maintenance range is somewhere between like 2,000 and 2,700 calories from heights 5'0" to 5'11", whatever. So that's like really scary for someone who's been sold this 1,200 calorie bullshit their whole life. So that is where I find reverse dieting to be a little bit more of an effective tool to help them, more than anything, just like trust themselves around food, get more comfortable, and allow their appetites and metabolism to upregulate again in response to incrementally introducing more food. It tends to be an easier. There tends to be less of like a mental barrier when I ask someone who's been undereating for a long period of time to, hey, we're just going to increase by 100 calories this week, and then we'll talk about what we do next week. And that's what I usually wield. That tool is more from a like an emotional, psychological standpoint. than a physical one.
Yeah, and I love that too because again, you're just making it a very sustainable approach and you're just taking it really slow, kind of week over week. What if it
Mhm.
was someone that really doesn't really track? They just are noticing some of these symptoms with, their cycle, some of the stuff that we mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
how can they
I,
do it
I,
in that way?
I'm probably for that individual who's just like never tracked before, has no concept of what they're taking in. But some of these signs are registering. I'm probably just putting them right at maintenance and seeing
Okay.
how they fare at that intake level. And then it kind of depends, right? In that first week, if they're like having a really hard time meeting that target, then we'll adjust and I'll kind of meet them in the middle. And I do like to give a calorie floor for that type of person, just to like ensure that we're not going to continue this like vicious undereating cycle.
Yeah.
But we can always adjust based on where their averages are landing after the first couple of weeks. But usually for that person, especially if like there isn't like a crazy inherent fear, I prefer to just get them humming right at maintenance.
Now, if we're talking about like no longer the undereaters and more just the general population of just like either wanting to maintain or potentially some body recomposition, are you having everyone track? Like, do you feel like that's a necessary tool for everyone?
Mm-mm.
Kind of, yeah, what do
Um,
you think about
no,
do you?
I don't, I definitely, it should not be a forever thing. Well, you mentioned like GLP-1s being a tool in the toolbox. I think tracking is another tool in the toolbox. Now, not everyone, it's definitely not appropriate for everyone.
Yeah.
I will say, like, people who are fresh out of a
Yeah.
eating disorder recovery, right? Like it depends on what their background or dieting history is. But for Gen Pop, I do when I work with someone, I do first have all of my clients track their intake, because I need to understand what their current intake patterns are, or if they're opposed to actually tracking calories, I want to see just like a general food journal or some kind of documentation of
Right.
what they're taking in. But if it's really hard to create like it's hard for me to create direction or like a directional plan if we have no idea what their current baseline is. So I do think it is a useful educational tool to understand current intake patterns, because they often, like, it's human nature to underestimate, or overestimate. Like there's just usually like what they think they're taking in doesn't always line up with what they're actually taking in. So and not just from a calorie standpoint, I want to spot deficiencies in protein and in fiber and in just like general micronutrient representation. So I like it as a educational tool. And I do find that tracking intake fosters really negative um, emotions or connotations or relationships with that practice when we are using it as a tool to track to really unsustainable intake levels. Usually, when we start to flip it as a tool to ensure we're eating enough, the relationship with it changes. And then from there, once we've established the awareness, like once we have awareness of proper portions, what an appropriate amount of food feels like for that individual personally, then we work on taking the foot off the tracking pedal, right? So that they can
Right.
start to build their plates without needing to plug it in, because they've now have the frame of reference to understand, like, okay, this is what like 6 ounces of chicken actually looks like. um and they can go based on how they're feeling, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing tool. Like I go in and out of tracking phases myself. If I want to go into a really targeted phase, like if I want to go into a fat loss phase or a muscle building phase, like I like to track because those are just short-term phases and I want to get in and get out. So those are the most
Mhm.
like accurate and efficient ways for me to do that. When I'm just like living life and maintaining, which is most of my year, I definitely am not tracking all the time. And then, that's kind of the path that I have my clients taking too. That was a really long-winded way of saying I am a proponent of tracking, but I certainly acknowledge and respect that it's not at all necessary for everyone, nor is it something that everyone should need to or even should do forever. It should just be a tool we can wield if and when we need it.
Yeah, I just love the way you're mentioning it, how it is an education thing. It is a toolbox so that you can look at a piece of chicken or look at, what you have on your plate and kind of eyeball and understand what that is. Because really, like you've mentioned, this is all just lifestyle habits, but we can't build those lifestyle habits without a foundation. And that's
Yeah.
really what
Or
we're
without
trying to
the
create.
awareness. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've talked a little bit about like the all or nothing perfectionist mindset. I get so many clients, I'm sure you do too. Monday through Wednesday or Thursday, they are in. They're like
Mm-hmm.
locked. I'm
Yes.
so over the locked. I'm locked
Locked,
in right
locked
now. I'm
in.
like locked into fucking what? But anyways, Thursday comes around, Friday comes around. They're social on the weekends. Everything goes fully out the window, and this happens
Mm-hmm.
every week. What could we give
Mm-hmm.
them? What kind of like thoughts and specifically on the nutrition side that like will get them out of this like cycle?
Yeah. So I like to frame for my weekend warriors and my social
Yeah.
butterflies. And I am one of those people. Like I like to my sister. So the like obsession with just like putting on a cute fucking outfit and going out for a drink or a dinner. Like I love doing that.
Yeah.
So uh I like to, for those people, I like to frame the weekend around anchor points. So we talk about, it depends on what the individual's vice is. But
Sure.
we frame it around anchors. So I want most of their weekend meals to resemble their weekday meals. So to allow that to happen, there needs to be some kind of prep done on Wednesday or Thursday. And it doesn't even have to be full blown meal or food prep, but like Instacart yourself a fucking rotisserie chicken and
Yeah.
frozen green beans and microwave carb, microwave rice or potato, whatever. You know what I mean? Like even if it's
Yeah.
lazy food, it still counts. And we will always make better decisions when we have good choices readily available to us. So that starts with making sure the weekend fridge and pantry situation isn't barren. So we start with that goal. And then when we actually move to the weekend, you know, we're setting goals for, maybe it's a goal for like how many meals at home can you reasonably commit to? How many, okay, so you're going out to dinner and you want cocktails. Can we commit to a fixed number? Can you commit to 2 cocktails, really enjoy them? And for every drink, you're downing 12 ounces of water between, right? Like, I'm not trying to take away the like parts of their lifestyle that they enjoy, but just building some guardrails and anchor points around those events tends to be really helpful. So, the prep helps provide some anchor meals. Like breakfast is an easy anchor meal for us to win on the weekend. Like let's front load your day with lean protein, lots of color and produce. That inherently gets you a little closer to a daily protein target, even if you're not tracking. But we're focusing on like heavier protein intake and produce intake because those are like not the most fun things to order on a menu if we're eating out.
Yeah.
Or I'm helping them look at the menu to find some kind of middle of the road option that they can then, store in their brain and apply to future menu scoping. But I feel like, is that helpful? What
For
do you
sure.
like to do for
Yeah.
weekend building?
It's funny. I'm like such a creature of habit. I'll eat the same thing every morning. I do the same
Yeah.
thing for lunches, like maybe dinners, I'll go out. But I'm the type of person, like you said, I will order out what I eat at home. My
Mhm.
husband's the opposite. He's the cook in the family too. So he's like, I'm not going to order stuff I can make at home. I can't make
Yeah.
eggs Benedict at home because I don't know how to make, like the hard
Yeah.
ones. So
Totally.
if they are someone like that, like, would you really more what you were saying first, like front end it and kind of like allow them the opportunity to have that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's got to be like a way the weighing if it's worth it, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're going out for pizza, for example, with your friends, is like I'm not gonna be like I'm not the nutritionist. It's like you're gonna order a fucking salad at the pizza restaurant, or like I want them to be able to enjoy experiences like that.
Of course.
But the worth it evaluation, right? Is the are you like really enjoy every bite of the first two slices? Is
Yeah.
the third are you first are you still hungry? Second, is the third slice like really worth it? Do you feel better or worse after that? So, like we need to be able to something that I like to kind of help train into them is these like internal dialogues when they're out and about making choices like that. um
Yeah.
and really kind of evaluating like how am I going to feel after this, or how am I going to feel, like am I going to feel better or worse tomorrow? If the answer is I'm going to feel worse, but I'm not going to feel bad about it because it's fucking worth it, or it's my birthday or whatever. That's their prerogative. You're an adult, but at least we're like starting to be reflective and considerate of these types of choices. That's kind of, I feel like I kind of trailed off from your original question, but I definitely encourage. I like your strategy, like encouraging just trying to resemble, like find the protein. So, like menu, looking at a menu isn't a rocket science. Like every menu probably has a protein source represented. So like start there, and then find the vegetable, and then find the carb source, right? Or
Yeah.
if they just really want a fucking burger, maybe we're having the cheeseburger and we're sharing the fries plus a side of vegetables, or
Yeah.
we're committing to the cheeseburger, but we're also going to commit to a more of a fiber forward side. Like they're different. There are lots of different strategies to wield, but what I don't ever tell them they can't go out or they can't have something that they want to have. I would rather find ways to make it work in and fit in their plan so that they can, again, like adapt and develop a more positive relationship with food, um,
Yeah.
than
I like
than fearful. Yeah.
I like how you mentioned like they have a choice. This gives them back the awareness and the
Mm-hmm.
autonomy to they have the decision to have that third slice. They also have the decision to have that meal, whether they have the burgers and fries and no salad, to then that next meal have a different alternative, right?
Exactly.
I
Right.
think
Yeah,
that's where
that's a really important point, right? That follow up. It's not necessarily like it's not the like third slice of pizza that is the inherent problem. It's the decisions that follow that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
And I
that's
think
important. Yeah, that's a good
that's
point.
really where I think that people get not messed up, but they'll be like, well, I already had that burger. Let's say they had it for lunch. And they're like, well, they still have another meal. That's another decision they need to
Exactly. Yes.
it doesn't have to be the, oh, this is done. I'll just, start over tomorrow, which then it's Sunday. Then you have three more decisions. And so if we're in this constant cycle where if one meal is bad, then all of them are, you're always going to be
Hmm.
back on that weekend warrior. So if we have these choices ahead of time, we have these choices. We're adults. We can make all the choices throughout the day. And just having that awareness I think is really helpful for them to know too.
Yeah. This time of year, like in relation to that, like where people really
Yeah.
kind of panic about this particular stretch between November and January or December and January, because it's, you have heavier social commitments and treats and, there's more indulgences around. And I always say like, weight, like body composition, body composition changes in the direction that you don't want are don't happen between December and January. They happen between
Yeah.
January and December. Right. So like it's the choices that you make. Yeah, I mean, exactly that. I think that type of like reframing the perspective, especially with stress around things like Christmas or the New Year, like is generally helpful and helps people like take a breath, right? No one like becomes their healthiest self after eating one salad, and the same is true in the reverse. Like no one gains 50 pounds in one meal, you know? So it's the series of choices that stack. And can we set ourselves up in an environment to stack more positive choices than, adverse choices when it comes to our health and feeding ourselves and training our
Yeah.
bodies?
And I think like you mentioned, there's several stressors involved here, right? There's the travel, there's you're out of your routine, out of work, maybe more family members, you're involved in different social situations. Obviously there's more food involved. And so
Mhm.
like having those all in mind, but still knowing that like you get to make the decision moving forward. So just like kind of a side note, do you have anything that you could give clients for when they get in front of people that may make, side conversations or comments about the way you look or the way you eat?
Oh, it's probably too violent. Like, fuck you, Susie. It's not your business, is like
Yeah.
generally my recommended response. But that's
Yeah,
not always constructive, nor is that how a lot of people are naturally wired to hold conversation.
exactly.
Um, uh, honestly, I find that a lot, it's the work that we do together that I do with my clients, it ends up instilling a lot of confidence in themselves, not just in like how they look, but just how they feel. Um, and the empowerment in their food choices this isn't really a super common thread um, anymore with most of them. Like they just do their thing, and what's on their plate is no one else's business. But you get that off like, wow, that's a lot of food, or going back for seconds, like, yeah, bitch, I'm hungry. Like, you know what I'm like?
Yeah.
Maybe you have a more constructive response that you offer to your clients for
Well, it's
situations
funny.
like that.
I've posted many videos that say like not your food, not your problem. Like I'm here for my
Yeah.
gains. Like
Yes,
why are you
exactly.
even here? You weren't invited. Like get out.
Right.
Like that kind
Yeah.
of dumb shit,
Perfect. Yes, I
right?
like that.
But that comes from a very extroverted, confident, like
You're right. Yeah.
no badass or like
You're right.
no
You're right.
bullshit type
You're
person.
right.
And a lot of people don't have that. And I think, even if they're not our clients yet to that point too, they're trying to maybe get into this, but don't know how to react. So if we were like the general population
Mhm.
around people like
Mhm.
that, it's
Mhm.
um, it's just more, I would say it's just more choices that you can make for yourself. You can kind of
For
take
sure.
yourself out of situations very easily. You can go for a walk. You can just get out of a room. You can, change the subject very easily. I always like to say, like, wear things that make you feel comfortable too.
I
A
like
lot of
that.
that goes into have like a few things in your back pocket of like if you know that you're going to be around family that's very political, very, you know, pushy, very opinionated. Like have like three statements in your back pocket that sound the best like you that you can kind of respond with too.
Yeah, I like that. And also, I think if you can also enter those types of events and situations with the grasping the fact that the individuals who make shitty comments like that, that's stemming from deeply rooted insecurities within themselves that have nothing to do with you.
Yeah, of
Now, reminding yourself of that in the moment is a lot easier said than done, but
course.
I do find that helps too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get that from strangers on the internet. So I'm sure that having
Yeah,
it in person is is shitty
yeah,
too. But
totally.
if you've practiced it a couple times in the mirror with your partner or friend, so you can like come back at them and just like, no, Susie, you suck.
Yeah. Fuck you, Susie.
How can we, bring more women in 2026 back into like, let's take up space, let's be strong, stop shrinking yourself and like really feel their full body presence and strength.
I mean, listen, we can't fight fascism in frail small bodies.
Period.
Is that a yeah. Um no, I just, you know, as I age myself,
Yeah.
uh women in our, like, something that this is maybe going in a different direction than what you intended, but like menopause is coming for all of us, right?
Hmm.
Like this like crazy transitional stage of life that still seems to have a lot of question marks around. People, when women like burn themselves at both ends of the fucking candle to evade it. Um, and I think a really good motivating force to get more women taking up more space, eating more, lifting more, uh, is to feel really fucking good in that stage of life. Um, the fear of getting, I don't want to lift weights. I get bulky really easy. I don't want to get too bulky. I don't want to, I gain muscle too easily. Like, getting jacked is the exact like secret sauce to entering menopause and like not losing the plot. That's the secret sauce to like not fighting menopause. We can't fight it. It's coming, but being able to build and protect and nurture muscle mass and a strong body now will make that transition so much better.
Yeah.
And that's
That's a
my
great way.
personal motivating force.
I love that. Yeah. She said, getting jacked is the secret sauce to menopause.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are you so worried about being bulky? That's actually the whole point
That's
of it.
yeah. Yeah. If only it were that easy.
I know. Yeah. That could be a whole other podcast,
Yeah.
Finley. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being on. Man, this was awesome. I'd love to have you back
Thanks
to
for
talk more
having
about
me.
lifting. Where can people find you, learn about you, get to know you?
Oh, well, you can find me. I just changed my Instagram handle. It's Unfuck Your Diet. So you can easily find me there. You can find me. My website is www.unfuckyourdiet.co. Those are probably the two easiest places to find and connect with me.
Amazing. Any resources
Yeah.
you want to share with anyone too?
Oh, can I?
Just go
What
on your
about?
Instagram.
Yeah. What about this? What if I? Oh, I don't know if this works from a like tactically, but what if I sent some of my favorite like female authorities in this space for people to look at, like other voices, other female voices in the fitness and
Sure. Yeah,
nutrition
yeah.
space
We can put
that we
that in
could
the
somehow blast out in the caption or something.
Yeah, love that. We can also put it in the show notes as well. So,
Cool.
yeah, I was just trying to
Yeah.
give you some credit for being
Oh, I
here.
appreciate that. No, everyone
But
just listened to
yeah,
me talk at you for like 60 minutes. So I'm,
no, it's great. That's what these are for.
I'll
Yeah,
amplify some other voices in the show notes.
amazing. Well, thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tara. This was awesome.